climbed in through the window. I didn't think I would escape. I was just frozen, helpless. Nothing I could do.
That property is a pretty remote property. It's several acres.
I could hear his footsteps, and they were getting closer. The evil in his eyes I'd never seen before.
Potential suspects were whittled down.
Hello guys, welcome to Chasing a Murderer Talking News, and we're going straight into this one. We've gotten some really devastating news thanks to Anthony. Thank you so much for sharing this with me. You actually beat me to it. I was actually sitting down to check for updates. So as we know, we have gotten some pretty devastating news over the past few weeks, actually half this year, and it has to do with Tylee Ryan and JJ Vallow. So around June 9th, they found the kids in the backyard of Chad Daybell, the Doomsday author. But we never did get details on it. And so we're going to go over those details. I've gone over it quickly. I'm having trouble reading this myself, so if things get to you easily, you probably don't want to watch this. So East Idaho News, Fox, and a few other people have acquired the 11-page affidavit of probable cause that was unsealed by the magistrate judge Farron Edens on Friday. And so these documents are about Chad Daybell, who is charged with 2 felony counts of concealment or destruction of evidence, guys, I'm sorry. And he was arrested and booked into the Fremont County Jail. And that was on the same day, June 9th, that the 2 children were found. As you know, investigators walked onto that Salem property owned by Chad Daybell, and media scoured the whole area. They had helicopters flying overhead. And those of us that kept up with this case were waiting very impatiently to find out the answers. I was hoping, and I was in denial, that they wouldn't find the children. When they found the children, and they let us know, they did find remains. They didn't tell us it was the children at the time. They didn't tell us how they got to that property. Now, we heard rumors, and I heard from someone that was a source of mine that they did get some sort of tip, but they wouldn't tell me how. So it turns out that how they found out where the kids were was they carefully looked over all the GPS information coming off of Alex Cox phone, and they compared, the last time that they seen the children, which Tylee Ryan was last seen on September 8th of 2019, and JJ Vallow was last seen September 23rd of 2019. They compared that evidence to witnesses that they had that were able to share the information that they knew. And what you're going to hear is going to be quite shocking. Now, I've had to go over these articles and kind of throw them all together quickly. I wasn't able to write up what I would usually do. So let's find out what they know. So Alex Cox, the brother of Lori Vallow, also known as Daybell now, was with the 2 kids and their mother in Yellowstone September 8th. And this was verified through photos that they were able to get by her iCloud and Yellowstone entrance. According to the GPS, they returned home around 8:30 that night. And they are saying between 2:42 a.m. and 3:37 a.m. on September 9th, Alex Cox phone is located or pings at Lori's and the kids' apartment. He did live in a separate apartment, but in the same complex, which we all know. Okay, so on September 9th, that morning, around 12 a.m. to 12:44 a.m., Alex Cox phone is located at the complex, his apartment, which is number 107. But they're saying it's later on, around 2:42 a.m. to 3:37 a.m., Cox is located again at Lori's apartment, which is number 175. And so this is where Lori lives again, her two children, Tylee and JJ. This is significant, not only because he's in the middle of, it's in the middle of the night, but because it's the only time in September that he goes over to Lori Vallow's apartment complex or townhome complex between midnight and 6 a.m. in the morning. So Alex Cox from there returns back to his apartment around 4:37 a.m. and at 9:21 a.m. he was located at Chad Daybell's property. Now, according to his phone's GPS data point, it places him near the east end of the barn, and this is according to the court records. And he was still at the property at 10:30 a.m. that morning. So, at 10:47 a.m., his phone shows a hit at the city of St. Anthony. And at this time, they say they were unable to tell if he was actually inside the city limits of St. Anthony or if this was a cell tower ping on his phone while he's still in the Daybell residence. According to Lieutenant Ron Ball of the Rexburg Police. So according to a few documents, it says that the department wrote in a statement, and that's around at 10:57 to 11:39. Cox is located at the Daybell property. I'm sorry, guys, I can't talk tonight. This is devastating. At 11:52 to 12:02, he was at Del Taco in Rexburg. And from there, it appears that he spends the rest of his day in his apartment. That same day, the FBI found the following text message conversation between Chad and his wife, Tammy Daybell, which is a few minutes right after Alex arrives on his property. And that text says, "Well, I had an interesting morning. I felt I should burn all the limb debris by the fire pit before it got too soaked by the upcoming storms. While I did so, I spotted a big raccoon along the fence. I hurried and got my gun, and he was still walking alone. I got close enough that one shot did the trick. He is now in our pet cemetery. Fun times." At 11:56, Chad to Tammy says, "Going to shower now, then go right for a while at BYU. Love you." So, it sounds like Melanie was there when everything was happening, doesn't it? Because she mentions that she was touring at BYU. I don't know. It just sounds like it. God, what a great man, right, guys? Lying to his wife, cheating on his wife, killing people, burying people in his backyard. Tammy to Chad at 2:47. "Good for you." Chad to Tammy at 2:48 p.m. "I'm back home now." Now, I guess one of the investigators, Ball, wrote the following about the exchange. And what he notices is quite brilliant. So he notices, he says, quote, "I found the text suspicious because raccoons are normally nocturnal animals and are not regularly out during the day. It should be noted that from interviewing neighbors of Chad Daybell, we are aware that in mid-July of 2019, Garth Daybell and Chad's son told their neighbors that Chad has shot a raccoon out of the tree on their property during that day. Garth told a neighbor about the raccoon in response to the question from the neighbor about hearing a gunshot. So neighbors informed me that the fire pit in the back of Daybell's property was hardly ever used until the last few months. As police learned this new information, they consulted with Tammy Daybell's sister. Samantha. They asked her if she knew about the pet cemetery on Chad Daybell's property. She says she knew about it as both she and Tammy were pet people and they both had pet cemeteries. When asked the location of the pet cemetery on the Daybell property, she stated that it was on the east side of the Red Barn near the fire pit. So according to this article, it says that she, lost my spot. Okay. She informed me that she was aware of the location of the pet cemetery on Daybell's property because Tammy had shown it to her. So Samantha was then shown an aerial photograph of the Daybell's property, and she pointed to the same area near the fire pit where Alex Cox phone pinged September 9th of 2019. Last week, investigators dug at that location while executing their search warrant, which was sealed, by the way, and made a grisly discovery. The ground in the area was probed with a steel pole, and several areas of the disturbed ground were located. During a search of this ground, a buried cat and dog remains were found. Then a backhoe was used to dig further layers of the den. While doing this, the bricks were located approximately a foot below the ground. The dirt in this area was searched and several items of interest were found, including other bones, charred tissue, and charred bones. Here you go, guys. The people thought that they seen Lori Vallow out there. That woman was most likely Cheryl Anderson, which is a Boise State University anthropologist. She indicated that these additional bones, both charred and uncharred, and tissue found were of human remains. So this is where they kind of start to put things together here. In one article, they say Lori withdrew JJ from Kennedy Elementary in Rexburg on September 24th and told administrators that she was going to homeschool her son. Police say that they never ever found any sign whatsoever of homeschooling JJ. When Gibb arrived at Lori's house in September around the same time, Lori told her that JJ had become a zombie. Actually, before she got there, Melanie had mentioned that JJ had become a zombie. It's when Melanie got there that she started pointing all these things out that JJ was doing. But she didn't say in an interview what it was that Lori was pointing out, what behaviors it was, and it turns out we're finding out now. So what she was pointing out, these behaviors were like sitting still and watching TV. Claiming JJ said he loves Satan, and an increase of vocabulary was evident, and that JJ was now a zombie. Investigator Ball wrote in an affidavit, Gibb observed JJ's behavior and felt it to be the same as she had always observed it. Pay attention to what detectives say Gibb says. So Gibb tells detectives that Lori told her that Chad had taught that once a person becomes a zombie, the death of the physical body is seen as a mechanism by which the body's original spirits can be released. Lori Vallow had actually told her friend Melanie Gibb that it was her and Chad's mission to get rid of all the zombies of this world. Guys, y'all have to forgive me. I'm really having trouble with this, just finding this out. The last time Gibb and Warwick saw JJ was the night of September 22nd. Warwick told investigators it was late and he was going to do a podcast with Gibb and Lori. Warwick said JJ was acting up, so Cox took JJ to his apartment. When Alex returned later that night, he was carrying JJ, who appeared to be asleep with his head on Alex's shoulder. Ball wrote, Warwick specifically remembered this because he saw it as a tender moment. The next morning, between 8 and 9, Warwick asked Lori where JJ was. Lori told Warwick and Gibb that JJ had been acting like a zombie and crawling on and on top of the kitchen cabinets. She informed Warwick and Gibb that JJ had climbed on the cabin tree and that he had knocked a picture of Jesus off the refrigerator. They say that's according to the probable cause. Vallow then informed Warwick and Gibb that Alex had come and taken JJ. And so I kind of want to go over this just a little bit more, guys. So the FBI analyzed Cox's cell phone. So Alex's cell phone movements for the morning of September 23rd. He was at Daybell's property from 9:55 a.m. to 10:12 a.m. for a total of 17 minutes. And he was near the pond. So let me go over this a little again. So members of the FBI removed the top layer of sod. Underneath the layer of sod, there were several large flat rocks. The rocks were removed and 2 pieces of flat paneling were found. The paneling was removed and investigators exposed a round object. And it was covered in black plastic. Upon exposing the round object covered in the black plastic, I want to suggest anybody that's gets upset easily, do not listen from here on, and then especially family. Okay. Exposing the round object covered in black plastic, a strong odor was noticed. The FBI member used a small, sharp instrument and made a small incision in the plastic, and a layer of white plastic was observed. An incision was made into the white layer of plastic, exposing what appeared to be human remains. The crown of the head covered with light brown hair. The affidavit says JJ's body was wrapped in a tight black plastic and secured with gray duct tape. It's still unclear as to how his life was taken. Now remember, Chad was there when they executed that search warrant. According to investigators, Chad continuously was watching officers while they were searching. He was observed watching officers while sitting in his vehicle in the front driveway and while sitting in his vehicle across the street at his daughter's residence. When our JJ's remains were discovered, the police wrote that Chad left his daughter's house in an SUV. We all heard the story that he was arrested in his car going somewhere. A lot of people were debating whether or not he was running away. But we never heard, we thought he kind of volunteered, but that wasn't the case so much. The police wrote that Chad left his daughter's house in the SUV. He was arrested about a mile from his home and booked into Fremont County Jail. Now, according to what we are hearing, the police pulled him over for a traffic violation. I can imagine at that time, Chad Daybell realized his life should be over. So there's a lot more details to this, but I think, mentally, I really can't handle much more tonight. So I think what I'm going to do is cover a little bit on Tylee and then close it out. So based on the September 9th of 2019, police visited another site of interest and dug down about 6 feet to a layer of brick. They removed the brick and they found charred tissue, charred bones. So this is a horrific ending for these children. They didn't deserve it. And it's all tied to this preparing the people, teachings, the people that were involved with this. And there's so many people that we wonder if they really understood how far that the people like Chad Daybell and Lori were going with these beliefs. While they claim that they do not know anything about Tylee and JJ, certainly they must understand that their teachings helped lead to this situation. And we're far from this being over, because we still have Charles Vallow and Tammy Daybell at least them two left that need justice. So hopefully investigators will continue to work as hard as they can. Not just accept, this small punishment that they can receive right now, but continue to work to put them behind bars for the rest of their entire living life. And so, I knew when I started this channel, things were getting worse in this world. People were becoming worse, and so violent acts and hate was growing. But gosh, who would ever dream that you would see this kind of stuff? You just can't even guess. This is just probably the worst case. And they're all bad. But when your own family, it's your own family, and then claim to do it for a God that's supposed to represent love, well, they definitely are misled, because there is no way a God that teaches love would accept such heinous acts. So guys, I want to send out my blessings to the family, and I hope that justice comes. People like Melanie Gibb, Melanie Boudreaux. You could tell that she was lying the entire time. She didn't share much information. You just don't know how far she went with it, but you can pretty much bet, since her ex-husband was a target, somebody knew about it. And somebody needs to pay the price. Hopefully the kids will be protected now that this has come to its head. It's not to its complete, but at least enough to show that these kids aren't just being hidden away somewhere at some white camp, tucked away because they're worried about somebody like their own grandmother trying to take them away. It's nothing like that. But anyways, guys, blessing to the family. Rest in peace for the kids, and I'll see you guys soon.